Those things would make me happy. Give it a go whenever they're in the mood. The thing is, it's not what it seems to be, just like any other person's employment. The complicated love life of King Charles has fascinated people throughout the globe for many years. Everyone was wondering what would happen next, from his troubled marriage to Princess Diana to his strong relationship with Queen Camilla. But in the middle of all the speculation, Charles let go a secret that shocked everyone. He proclaimed, with a calm yet contemplative voice, that she is his one and only true love. It would appear that a king's heart is not as schizophrenic as was often thought after a lifetime of public scrutiny. Could he still be having second thoughts about his wife's choice? Is there any part of King Charles that still wonders what, if after all these years of public scrutiny and difficult love? Come talk about King Charles's latest disclosure about what he really wants with us. A love defined by duty, the crown's burden. King Charles was born in 1976 as the heir apparent to the British throne, brought up in the shadow of Britain's most illustrious monarch. A feeling of obligation and duty had already come to characterize his life. Despite his outward display of monarchy, he was secretly aware that the security of the kingdom took precedence over his private life, particularly in light of his romantic connections. Never before has love been used as a political weapon instead of a romantic quest or love endeavor, and the treatment of Charles' love life, as if it were to mirror the crown's aspirations, is unprecedented. In order to ensure the continuation of the monarchy and, on occasion, to forge diplomatic connections between states, the crown has historically pieced together well-crafted plans. Edward VII, great-uncle of King Charles, had an ill-fated romance with American socialite Bessie Wallace Simpson, who had been divorced twice. Nothing could sway King Edward VII from his firm belief that he had discovered love at that moment. He was willing to put everything on the line because, ultimately, the heart wants what it wants. The royal family was not happy about his pursuit of Wallace, his love interest. There was no animosity or contempt directed towards Wallace in the vicinity of Buckingham Palace. The problem was more of a constitutional paradox. Kings and queens used to have to follow specific protocols, even though they were at the very top of the social hierarchy. Among them was the prohibition on a monarch's marriage to a divorced woman whose ex-husband was still alive. Being familiar with these regulations, King Edward VII knew he had to decide. One option was to just let her go. Another was to abdicate and allow his brother, George V, to become king while he followed his heart. In 1936, he startled the world by abdicating the monarchy and pursuing his love interest. Even though the first option sounded patriotic and courageous, it seemed to be his only choice. The British crown does not bend to the will of its subjects, despite his initial attempts to do so. Everyone promptly gets in line as soon as it cracks the whip. But Charles' mystery was unique. He was faced with the difficult decision of whether to pursue his aristocratic love interest, Diana or Camilla Parker Bowles, who was completely independent of her family. What became of that decision, though, since the crown had previously made it for him? Nominated by King Charles. Countless ladies in the UK and abroad lusted for Charles, the future king of the British monarchy, just as any young man born into a royal family would. Having said that, his life was not as simple as everyone else's. Shakespeare, though, was correct. Crowned with unease lies the head. Thus, even in issues of the heart, there was a predetermined order to his life and existence. When Charles met Sarah, his first pick, he was one fortunate prince who found love at his fingertips. Although his connection with Sarah was under discussed in the public, it played a significant role in his life by facilitating his meeting with Diana. The story of Prince Charles's first publicized love affair was with Sarah Spencer, the daughter of Earl John Spencer and Frances Shand Kidd. Sarah, though, was unique. Charles simply would not abide this complex woman who insisted on doing things her way. They broke up because she allegedly revealed too much personal information about them, and then instantly brought attention to her relationship with Charles, trying to make it appear as insignificant as possible. She reportedly said that she would never wed Charles, even if he were the future king or the dustman of England. The world eagerly awaited an explanation or justification that could have shed light on her abrupt separation. But in her remarks, she offered no genuine reason. It wasn't long after her split with Charles that she tied the knot with writer Neil McCorquodale, son of the late great British bowler Alastair McCorquodale. Marriage to the daughter of an earl wasn't a terrible choice, but social stratification still ranks him much lower than marrying the future heir apparent and gem in the British royal family's crown. Although King Charles had his sights set on Diana, another Spencer daughter, she remained good friends with him when she made her decision to marry Neil McCorquodale. Despite the fact that Diana was 13 years younger than Charles, he still desired her. Ignoring prudence and rushing into the problem with Diana's approval, naturally, the British crown was the ideal beneficiary of their alliance. Finding the perfect word may be a great challenge, doesn't it? Pure joy and delight. His father, Prince Philip, and mother, the late Queen Elizabeth, were behind him. Diana, the youngest daughter of an earl whose innocence could be attested to, and being a member of the nobility, presented the ideal social match for Charles. The crown, on the other hand, saw the chance for a perfect social marriage. The world gazed in wonder as 32-year-old Charles wed 20-year-old Diana on July 29, 1981, in the most spectacular wedding that Britain had ever seen. In the midst of their uncontrollable infatuation, Charles harbored misgivings about his relationship with Camilla Parker, whom he had kept secret from his family out of fear that she wouldn't be welcomed because she wasn't a member from the upper class. How can he find his way through this predicament, torn between his love and his feeling of duty? The upheaval at home was causing King Charles to rebel, even as his marriage to Diana was the topic of British pop culture and lifestyle. But little Princess Diana tried her hardest to keep the family united. She gave him an heir and an extra princes William and Harry, so their union was blissful for a while. He couldn't stop thinking about Camilla, even if Diana felt that may keep him at home and help him get his feelings straight. Unlike anybody else, she managed to win him over. At this juncture, he found himself in a difficult situation, where his emotions and his sense of responsibility clashed. Even as the conflict continued within his own emotions, he observed he could only think of one way out of this predicament for the war to end. He was faced with a decision. He chose Camilla over the mother of his children at the time, so it wasn't a tough choice. He resisted the temptation to end the marriage at first, but he insisted on trying to make it a trio instead. More is better, right? But you know who wasn't on board with that? The late Princess Diana. At the age of 21, she tied the knot with the one man she had ever loved passionately. Nevertheless, she felt wronged when he married someone from his past instead of her. She became involved in multiple love affairs in and around Buckingham Palace, and she reacted in the most vicious ways imaginable, dragging rags after the crown. The Queen remained distant as the matter became much uglier, and the crown's reputation was once again dragged into the mire. There has never been a more publicized scandal involving the crown than the tumultuous romance between Charles and Diana, with Diana's adultery serving as the cherry on top.